I was wondering for small brands that are kind of bootstrapping still and maybe aren't at that stage of having access to data and things like that, how have you seen, have you seen any decline in efficacy as the space gets more and more crowded with so many brands? And how would you say that brands could stand out in the noise?
I'll jump in real quick and just say that what really matters is that you are really tuning into what your audience is already talking about. And, from our perspective, obviously we're so about influencer marketing specifically because it allows you to reach people who are already predisposed to like you, even if you are a small brand. Every single one of the brands today was talking about the importance of building that community, that ride or die, like Vanessa said. And a great shortcut to that is by partnering with people who already have audiences who are highly engaged and already excited about that. So there's lots of ways that you can go about discovery and data, but just knowing that the mission comes first, and the more niche you are and the more niche influencers that you partner with, the more successful you're actually going to be.
I can also add to that a little bit. So I totally feel you on that kind of predicament. And I think the biggest thing, to Kelsey's point and what others have talked about here, I think, is being extremely clear about who you're speaking to and being relentless with that. Even if you go on fundraising and people tell you that's niche, it's probably not, because it's a starting point. And if you don't have a lot of resources, do not try to talk to a wide audience. Be very clear about who you're speaking to, know what they care about, know their values, know what channels they use, know how they identify and what perspectives they hold. And I think if you can focus on them and get that one community to really care about you, you're at a great starting point to then have them reach out to their kind of peers around them and halo out to broader new audiences over time. When Ensemble launched, we were relentless about speaking to the Asian American community. And I can't tell you how many people were like, oh, that's 7% of the community. Doesn't that feel really specific? And what's your market, that's relevant to that? What's the size of the market? And we were like, if we go out and try to be for everyone, we are going to fall flat and nobody's going to care about what we have to say. So I would say, yeah, just be really adamant about that and be very clear about who you're speaking to. I think some of the best brands have done that really well, like Arcs Bar and Halo Top started by talking to weightlifters and bodybuilders. That might be a small subset of the population, but they are seen as the kind of credible community when it comes to some areas around health and wellness, right? So don't be short-term in thinking about audience. Understand how that evolves over time and how access and resonance with one audience can unlock others.
It even goes back to the first question we just had. We've invested a ton in search and finding it's such a fun game, and we have someone dedicated to it, that we started midway through the year, just working with our retailer.com and delivery platforms, because we knew based on our consumer behavior that was going to be key, and that's key to discovery. That's almost the base focal point. And it's not the big terms that people are searching. It's about finding what works. We randomly found that someone shopping for kombucha has a high affinity and conversion to buying our types of, cold pressed fruit and veggie blends. Not a mass, but that was the discovery that was let's fuel that. Let's see what we can learn and then use it on other platforms. So search was a big piece of that. And then how you layer, how your sales teams or you work with what trade discounts you are, providing it at what times to your brand, which becomes layered upon search. And then also any additional marketing elements just to highlight to a very targeted audience. Start small and then grow from there with the learnings.
I think the advantage on our side is that we are highly curated, so we don't have thousands of products in every category. It makes it a much easier shopping experience for our members, and then easy to find new products. We also have a new item section, and we are, as I mentioned earlier, going through a site redesign that'll make discovering much easier for new items. The funny part is, though, is we still see a ton of traction from email. and email marketing and just emailing our audience and letting them know about sales, new items, different things that are happening. Again, we're a bit of a more closed loop. So we're not casting that broad net, we're communicating directly with our customers. So it in that sense, it's probably way more advantageous for us than it may be for a brand, for example.
So, I mean, as a young brand new to the market, obviously acquisition was pretty much all we had to start to focus on. And I think what's helpful is to kind of like give a lay of the land of what we saw happening, and then how we decided to define our strategy in response. So when you look at like the food world, in a very reductionist way, you kind of see a bifurcation of approaches to like entering the market and acquisition. You see brands that come out and they're really lean. They kind of are trying more of a grassroots approach. Most of their capital is just going towards like funding inventory, and they're hoping people will tell their friends, like in a very lean way. But then you kind of have this other approach, which is like kind of the more like D2C hyper venture back, like let's just like ad strategy, top line growth coming from like Facebook ads, Instagram ads. And we saw that, and we're like, neither of those meets our ambition and our view of how we'll be a long-term sustaining brand. And so our sweet spot is actually a hybrid of the two, where we invest in super high quality and intentional community building, and then we use paid means to amplify that existing community and that existing evangelism, versus just being like, hey, you've never heard about us, this is awesome, we're functional, eat us. Or just hoping people share in very organic ways. We have this like kind of sweet spot approach, and I think that has been kind of what's worked really well in that way is that it's allowed us to be very thoughtful on where we spend, and we've been able to focus on very high ROI spend to accelerate our acquisition. But of course, there's a whole other like world of I guess considerations as it relates to like expectations that maybe you've communicated to investors, or that you're kind of like pegging on. And so that's why for us, in our first year, top line growth has not been the metric that we feel is the most important to focus on. We actually like proactively communicated to investors and stakeholders that like, we're actually not gonna capture all the low-hanging fruit when it comes to growth. We're really going to double down on this community, and we're going to amplify that community with our marketing spend. And that has worked very well for us.